which Bat family member deserves to take over the Arkham franchise. I talked about that in a previous video where I broke down my top 3, which was Terry McGinnis, Batman Beyond, Red Hood, and the subject of today's video, Nightwing. In today's video, I'll talk about what a Nightwing Arkham game would look like, the title, the story, the skins I'd want, the villains, the other characters, the game mechanics, and so much more in today's video. So if you guys like that type of content, make sure to hit that subscribe button. If you're new, make sure to check out the suicide prevention fundraiser down below, like the video, and leave your guys' thoughts down below in the comments. Let's get into it. Since this would be going back to the roots of the Arkham franchise, I think having the name Arkham in the title is necessary to remind players that this is not going to be like Suicide Squad. This is back to basics Arkham franchise stuff. So I would like to call the game Nightwing Arkham's successor. That is something that I think is very straightforward. It's Nightwing and it's the successor to the Arkham storyline. It's very simple, very straightforward. This also kind of plays into the story, which I think the overall theme should be what Nightwing does next and how he deals with the new Batman, or what I would prefer if Batman actually retired and realized that Nightwing is the hero that Batman should have been, like he does in many of the comics. This would lead to an amazing story that has been done in the comics and done in some of the animated stuff, where Nightwing deals with the decision on whether or not he wants to take up the Batman title. And I think that there's a lot that they could do with this, especially with the player being able to play as both Batman version of Nightwing and Nightwing version of Nightwing, because I think that they could play totally differently, and maybe they even let you select at the end of the game which path you want to do, or they could do some decision making throughout the game that kind of changes the story, that allows for replayability on the road of Nightwing's adventure. You know, do you want to become the Batman, or do you want to become this new, brighter hope for the future, which is Nightwing's character? I think that there's a lot that they could do there, and it's a very strong storyline in the comics, and it would translate great to this Arkham universe. Alright, so obviously we have to make some connections to the previous games, and unfortunately that does include Suicide Squad. However, there is a character that helps us with this immensely, and it's going to be the villain of our story, Deathstroke. That's right, Deathstroke was approached by Amanda Waller, was part of the Suicide Squad, and then dipped. He was also a very important part of Arkham Origins. He had one of the best boss fights out of any of the games, except for Arkham Knight. However, he was very over-marketed for Arkham Origins and very underutilized. This is the perfect opportunity to bring this character back that had so much potential and finally let him live up to that potential. We know what Deathstroke can do. Seeing the comic books and the animated series, this guy does not mess around, and we did not get to see enough of that in the Arkham games. Now this is the perfect opportunity. Deathstroke versus Dick Grayson is a story that goes down, and it's always a blast. It's always a lot of fun. It's just one of the best combinations of hero and villain, in my opinion. And I think it's one of the most underrated relationships, hero versus villain, in comics, in my opinion. So with that being said, this would also give us a perfect opportunity to introduce another super team. And I think you can see where I'm kind of going with this. With the death of Robin in Suicide Squad, which again, not a big fan of this continuity, but with this happening, I think Nightwing needs to move on from the Bat family. Obviously, he can't fully move on. They're the Bat family. They will always be connected, but he needs to find family in another team. And I think you can see where I'm going with this. We can introduce the Teen Titans. Now, I don't want them to take up a ton of the story. I don't want it to be a Teen Titans game. I want it to mainly focus on Nightwing and him taking over the mantle, whether that be Batman or whether that be in the name of Nightwing. However, this is a perfect opportunity to kind of set up or tee up like a Teen Titans DLC or a Teen Titans, future game. This could also lead to some downloadable content that includes playable characters like Beast Boy, Cyborg, Starfire, and Raven, which I think would be super fun. Imagine being able to play as these characters. I know that's a lot to ask for, and I wouldn't ask them to obviously make these characters super fleshed out. Like, obviously, in the Arkham Knight game, Batman's character and gadgets are obviously a lot more fleshed out than Robin and Nightwing and Catwoman and Harley Quinn and Red Hood and Azrael and Jesus Christ, there's a lot of, and Batgirl. God, there's so many DLC characters to play as in that game. But this is a perfect opportunity to add some DLC characters to the Nightwing Arkham game. I think that's a problem that is in Suicide Squad right now. Obviously, there's 4 characters to play as, but they don't play differently enough. And this is the perfect opportunity to kind of go back to basics and also live up to the expectation that Rocksteady set for themselves in Arkham Knight. So with this game going back to basics, we're going to have to bring back the combat missions and the stealth missions, and even maybe a little bit of a blend of the two depending on the mission. And what they can do perfectly is enhance the idea that Nightwing is different than Batman and how he plays. Nightwing is a much more smooth character. He doesn't have to operate in the shadows. He's not afraid of doing missions during the daytime, which is going to be so cool to see during the Arkham universe. I mean, we got to see daytime a little bit in Nightwing's DLC story, and seeing Gotham like that with the rain and everything is just perfect in my opinion. But other villains that I would love to see in this story would be some of his best villains in my opinion. I think they could bring back Lady Shiva. There's a lot of opportunity there, especially with making a harder combat challenge or boss battle. Her boss battle was definitely very underplayed. She should have been a harder boss fight in the previous Arkham games, so she could definitely have trained a lot more. I think that they could bring Strike in. We could bring in some of the Court of Owls storyline if they wanted to. I wouldn't dive too deep in there because that's more of a Batman story, but if they wanted to kind of tease Talon and kind of have like a little small boss fight with Talon that kind of tease up another like a second sequel Nightwing game, I think that that's something that could be cool too. I think Paragon would be really cool as well, but I think that the main focus should be Deathstroke and his militia that he would bring. I mean, if he was funding some of Arkham Knight's militia in the Arkham Knight game, imagine what Deathstroke would do if it was just him. Like, he would crank that shit up to 11, and he's not messing around. Okay, as for cosmetics, I'm going to list off my personal top 15 Nightwing costumes that I'd like to see. Obviously, they're going to need to make a new Nightwing costume, but I would like it to keep some of the armored style that Arkham Knight Nightwing had. But going off in no particular order, we got Arkham City Nightwing. It's just nostalgic for me, and so I would really love to see it in a new game. The Arkham Knight Nightwing suit, obviously, it's armored. It looks cool as hell. I think it's very sleek. The Batman Ninja Nightwing, I think it's very weird and silly and out there, and I kind of like stuff like that. I want the Batman animated series Nightwing. I love the mullet. I want it to be cell shaded with the option to take the cell shading off because, you know, just let it be an option. The Batman vs. Robin suit, this is one of my favorites. It looks great in the animated version. If they wanted to make this cell shaded as well, that would work really cool. Otherwise, they could just kind of make their own 3D version of it. The Blue V suit, this is the most iconic, the New 52 Blue. It's super, super cool with the sticks being like this clear, translucent-y blue. It's very, very cool. I love it. It's very sleek. It's a very good design. The Disco suit. Obviously, we're going to have the Disco suit. It looks dumb. It's so silly. It's so outdated, but that's kind of part of its charm. Also, we're going to need the Injustice design. I love that the Injustice suit looks so sleek. I don't like his hair, but I mean, it's also very nostalgic. We're going to need the Judas Contract costume. I love those animated movies, and I grew up with them, and so the Judas Contract costume to me is one of his most perfect designs. Also, I want to see live action Titans, another one of my favorites and one of the best Nightwing suits I've ever seen in live action. I mean, we've only gotten this one version of a Nightwing in live action, but when it comes to like cosplayers and stuff, this thing just blows them out of the park. New 52 red suit. This is one of the most iconic Nightwing suits. They switched the blue to the red. Oh my god, people's minds blew. Also, if they wanted to toy with the idea of Red X possibly being Dick Grayson, I think a Red X option would be really cool, but it might mess with some of the combat stuff that has to do with his sticks and his fighting style. But I think it would be really cool if they made it work. The Teen Titans version of Nightwing. I love this design. He looks really, really cool. I love the long hair is so cool on Nightwing. Like, this is extremely long, and I think it looks great. Also very nostalgic for me. The Young Justice costume, I think this is a given. That you can't make a Nightwing game without giving some love to Young Justice. Lastly, after you beat the story mode and you beat all the missions, I think that there should be an unlockable Lego Nightwing. It doesn't make sense for cutscenes, but that's okay because you beat the game. Maybe you can use it in New Game Plus. It doesn't matter though, because you already beat the game. It wouldn't get in the way of the immersion because you unlock it after you beat the game at least one time. I think this is a perfect way to do a Lego Nightwing in this game. It also has to be the spiky hair version because that's obviously the best version of Lego Nightwing. Additional gameplay mechanics that I'd like to see is the way that you traverse around the city. I mean, Nightwing moves very differently than Batman, like I've said, and you would zip around rather than using a glider. They could add a glider, or they could save that for the times of the story mode when Nightwing is experimenting with being the next Batman, and maybe he puts on a Batman costume and everything, and you can use gliding at that point in the story, and maybe that influences the player's decision on whether or not they want to stay as Batman or Nightwing, or maybe you can interchange the two depending on how you're feeling. But I definitely wouldn't want them to make it feel slower than using, you know, Batman's cape and everything to glide. It should be, if anything, it should be faster because of, you know, just how acrobatic he is. But using the sticks to zip around the city would be really fun. Additionally, using Nightwing's bike is something that I think is not featured enough in Nightwing content, whether it be animated shows or even the comics. I think Nightwing's bike, especially in Injustice, was like the coolest thing ever in my opinion. Maybe I'm just a little bit nostalgic about it, but I think being able to roam around in the bike rather than this giant Batmobile would be a good way to bridge the gap of people who liked the Batmobile missions in Arkham Knight and the people who didn't like them as much. It'd be, you know, smoother, it'd be faster, it'd be a little bit easier to use and not so reliant for certain missions, but still, you know, very heavy duty and very fast on the streets, and is something that I think would be a great addition gameplay wise. Another feature that would be really cool, and something that I'm starting to see more game studios lean into, is live events. Now, these don't have to be as like crazy and thought out as like a Fortnite event. They could be something as simple as when you sign on to Nightwing Arkham's successor, you load into Bloodhaven or Gotham, and a building that is normally just part of the map is now being robbed, or there's a fire going on, and you have to help these people, or a stealth mission or a combat mission, and doing so gives you some type of reward. Maybe it's a harder mission than normal. Maybe there's a villain attacking that you previously put away, but maybe they got out and now there's a villain attacking, and this is happening to everyone's console at the same time, and it's happening throughout the day. It's something that you can do, you know, once you do it, you can maybe replay it to get a better score, but once you do it the first time, you get an in-game reward, whether that be like a new hairstyle, a new mask, a new skin, customizables for the bike or the Nightwing sticks. There's so many opportunities for customizables in a game like this, and something like a live event that gives you rewards not only rewards the player for just joining and playing the game that they bought, it also brings replayability, which is a game like statistic that Warner Bros is struggling with right now. They are opting into online stores and premium item shops where they should be focusing on earnable rewards that bring replayability to the games that people love. These are just some things that I would like to see in a Nightwing game. I want to know your guys' thoughts down below in the comments though. What do you guys think? What other heroes should I cover for the Arkham successor type stories? Should I do a Red Hood one, a Batman Beyond one, heck, I could do a Batgirl one, stuff like that. I'd love to talk about each character and how their games could be all very different while also being under the umbrella of the Arkham series and bringing us back to what made the Arkham games so much fun and not as convoluted and money hungry as a game like Suicide Squad. With that being said, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to drop a like. If you guys are new here, make sure to subscribe. Like I said, there is a fundraiser for suicide prevention down below. It's an ongoing fundraiser fundraiser. It should be on every video. It goes till the end of time, as far as I know. So if you guys want more information, go check it out down below. Other than that, have fun, be respectful, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks.